Welcome to Loans and Drones. This is episode 5, and we are talking today about it's all about who you know. And I have 2 special guests here that actually saved me $15,000. So thank you, Sachin. So Sachin and Kerry are tax advisors with BG Advisors, and they are here today to discuss their business model. We're going to talk about it's all about who you know. So let's go. Thank you so much, guys, for joining me today on Loans and Drones. I want to just tell you, look, let's talk about it's all about who you know. And you guys have a special story about how you met. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So you can start out, I guess, back. You started out, you're a little bit older than me, so you started out in the business before me.
I started my career at Deloitte in 2006. I stayed there for 5 years and then joined EY. That's where I met Kerry. We used to be Q buddies.
Yes.
And
Nice.
our homes actually were next to each other as well. So we found out on the way back from the office one of the nights we were coming back, and that's how we found that we used to live next to each other.
So we would be at work. I would be on the federal tax side. He would be on the international tax side. Share clients. So we would work together for more than probably 12 hours a day, every day.
Wow.
And it was, earlier on in our careers that I'm like, all right, well, the 12:40 a.m. train is leaving. It's the last one out of the city. We got to go.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, my train's leaving too. And so we both are like, okay, we're both getting off at Naperville. And so we start walking out. And I said, are you going to get in your car? And he's like, I'm walking. I'm like, me too. It looks like we're just about 4 houses down from each other.
Wow.
So that was about 15 years ago.
15 years ago.
That's correct, yeah.
When did the relationship break up?
So he would always call me EYFL, EY for life, that I was never going to leave EY. And I would say, that's ridiculous. Like, I will leave one day, maybe.
Yeah, but I left before her.
Yes.
I went into a private company, was a tax director there. But then I left that role in 2018, and I found a small CPA firm that I could acquire.
Why did you leave? That's what we want to know. Why did you leave? It's all about entrepreneurship.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
all
grew
right,
up in family business, so I always had that
Okay.
itch that I want to do something on my own. When I was in public accounting or when I was in corporate, I was never satisfied from that perspective, and it was never about how much money I'm making. It's just that itch that, I want to do something on my own. So
Right.
I left my corporate career in 2018. I found this accounting firm. And at that time, I told my wife that, if we grow this business into double in next 5 years, I'll be at the same place that I'm leaving right now.
In
from a
5
money
years is
perspective.
what he says.
So the 5-year plan. Right?
5-year plan.
Okay.
So this is what he tells me at this point when he's leaving corporate. He says, I've been doing some research. I'm like, okay, Sachin, tell me, what kind of research have we been doing?
Yeah.
He says, I've looked at all the CPA firms in Naperville, and
There were
I've looked
65
at
at that-
There were
at that.
65, and I analyzed them to see how old the business owners were, and I figured out there's a handful of them that I'm going to go and talk to, and I'm going to buy out their business. I'm like, you're going to go and buy out a small CPA firm in Naperville, Illinois?
And,
Wow.
His job, his corporate job, he was doing amazingly. I mean,
Yeah.
you were extremely successful. So he told me that, and I remember I literally was like laughing, like, Sachin, you're not going to do this. And he's like, I'm doing it.
Huh. So you did it.
again, the reason being that I saw my dad growing up, being in the business. He was very satisfied with what he was doing. I could not find that satisfaction in my career. Like that level of satisfaction, I never had that. So that's why it was like about small business and then doing something on my own. But yeah, I searched all the firms and I said, here are 12 or 15 firms. And then how do I know each of the owners? And so that's how I found the first business, that the first practice that I acquired is
That's
by
good.
finding
That's a
that
good
connection.
story.
And
I
then-
just remember, I literally just remember.
Thank you for bringing that up because I would have not gone there. And good
It's
job.
a good one. It's a good one.
That's good.
And actually, the person that connected me was the first senior that when I started at Deloitte, I was working for her, and she's the one who connected me with the practice owner. And she made the connection, and that's how it started. It all started.
Leave corporate world, having a very successful career, risk leaving that, and then you're researching this, and it's kind of like a Hail Mary approach. You're like thinking it could work, it couldn't work, right?
And if it works, it might take 5 years.
Yeah,
but I'll
yeah,
get
so,
back to
yeah.
where I'm at today.
No. So yeah, I think that's the key part, especially about somebody who is married, have kids. You cannot just leave just like that. You have to have plan.
Yeah, right.
So this was like, I was probably researching all of this while I had job. I would say
Sure.
I would tell everybody not to leave your job till you have exactly what you're going to
Right.
do next.
Right.
So I was doing all the research before I left the job.
How long were you doing the research for?
I would probably say at least a year.
A year. Okay.
Yeah. So in my mind, I knew exactly, like when I left, I knew this is what I'm going to do. This is how it's going to work. And, again, I would start reducing your expenses, like your fixed expenses that you have. Make that a priority, just assume that you are going to not make anything for a year.
Mm-hmm.
Can you survive with that? Start collecting funds, start saving funds. And
Right.
because you have to assume for the worst when you start on the entrepreneurial journey.
Right. How confident were you when you took that leap of faith?
I was pretty confident.
Really?
And that's why, that's the reason I acquired the practice, because I needed something to rely on when I leave. At least there's something that's going on. Simple things like, setting up procedures. It looks pretty straightforward, but it's not. I remember, when we first did our business card, you would think that, I had never ordered business card before, because in corporate, there was a person that was doing that. And
Right.
now I had
Right.
I had this discussion with the designer, and she was asking, tell me, what do you think about, showing me the color and then asking me, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? Like, what is the first thought that comes into your mind when you see this color? And this is something that you are asking a CPA or accountant. It's like this.
So you're not a marketing major by any means.
No.
Like that was kind of out of your element.
Yes.
But it's interesting hearing that story, because he did put a lot of time and planning and research into this, whereas in my situation, like he said, he thought that I would be at EY, like I was going to be a partner. That's what I planned on doing. I mean, that's what I was right out of school. I went there, I was getting my master's to be a partner. And then my client had reached out, and in a discussion we said, you guys you're a very, very large global organization, and you have to have somebody that's a tax matter expert there to protect you guys more so from a tax risk perspective. So I got into this project for probably 6 months working with my client of developing a position. And they turned around and said, okay, after 6 months, so do you want this position, Kerry? And I was like, excuse me? No, I'm EYFL. That's what Sachin says, I'm EYFL. And I said, you know what do I have to lose? Let me just talk with them. And even if I go in-house and spend a year, I could always come back. You could always come back to the Big Four.
Yeah.
I spent 5 years there, loved it. I had a great time. I had a great position. I was working downtown, and every year I would meet up with Sachin and say, okay, how's it been? The first year was a little rough, I could tell. It was probably the only time I've actually seen him extremely stressed. And
He doesn't seem like a guy that gets stressed out.
No,
Like,
he's
so
not.
I'm interested. Okay, so yeah.
Yeah, I could tell. So I was like,
Really?
oh gosh, maybe that wasn't a good idea. You shouldn't have done it. I didn't know. Well, there's a lot that goes behind that as well. But then every 6 months, every year, we would just meet and have coffee. And I'd always start out with don't even try and poach me. I'm happy with where I'm at. I'm not going anywhere. But the last time that, it was back in June of last year, I said, hey, we're meeting for coffee. I know you have an office somewhere, right? You have a company, this company, PG Advisors.
Small little company.
So,
right?
yeah, it's got to be by my house. I'll stop by your office. He's like, okay, yeah, no problem. Here's the address. And took me 4 whole minutes to get there, and I'll never forget, I walked in, and it has glass, everything's glass, it looks real professional. I walked in, and there's maybe 6 people working, and I saw Sachin, and I said, how much did you pay these people to set this up to look like a real office? This is this is legit.
This is legit. This is legit.
I mean, everyone was like, they like look scared initially, and then they start laughing. So I was like, okay, well, that's good. But I was there, I don't know, for 20 minutes just talking to everyone that worked there, and it was just a laid-back atmosphere, and something in me, I had zero expectation. I wasn't even thinking about other job.
Really?
It wasn't even on my mind. Didn't even have a resume, nothing.
This is
And-
June, right? June.
Yeah, June. And he says, do you have 5 minutes? I want to chat with you, after just having coffee with everybody. I said, yeah, absolutely. And he says, well, I've always asked you if you want to join, but I want to now acquire another company. It's very large in the tax space, and I need you. And I said,
Dun, dun, dun.
I'll think about
The
it.
closer.
I'll
We were
think
just talking about
about
that, weren't we? What went down? Like, what
So
were
that
you
was so
thinking?
I walked out of his office, and I remember the first person I called was my best friend, my dad.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
My dad says, "You're talking about Sachin, aren't you? That's the person that you're going to go and join." And I said, "It is, Dad. Like my whole family knows him, although they don't
never
know
met.
him. They've
You've
never
never
met
him.
Yeah.
but they all know him. And like
Okay, all right.
it had been many years I had not worked with him. And
Right.
they're like, with Sachin. I'm like, yes, Sachin. So my dad's like, yeah, absolutely, you've got to do this. Like, I know, Kerry, I could tell in your voice, this is what you want to do, this is what you've been meant to do. And he's like, oh, but one thing. I'm like, what? He's like, don't forget to call your husband. He's like, make sure he's okay with it. And I was like, oh,
yeah.
right.
Good advice. Good
Yes, he
sound
says,
advice,
even
Dad.
if he says no, you still go with it. I'm like, right, yes, agreed. So it was
Just
about a half an hour
Out of
later.
courtesy, right?
Yeah, just
out of
like,
courtesy.
out of courtesy. So about a half an hour later, I called Sachin. He, of course, answers on the second ring. He's always available. And I said, well, my line manager's out in Switzerland, so I'm typing up my resignation letter, and I'm going to wake up at 4 a.m. and have a call with her to give this to her. And he says, okay, sounds good. I said, okay, sounds good. This is my life.
Very calm, yeah.
So he took a year of planning all of this and his research and getting his
Okay.
budget ready and, expecting the worst. And I'm just over here on the fly,
Okay, he's a good planner, right?
Apparently.
Very good. I guess that's why he does taxes. But you were
So
planning this a year in advance.
So
of
when
the-
we met
okay.
in June, I had already done 2 acquisitions.
Mm-hmm.
So this was the 3rd acquisition, and like when I started, when I told my wife that if we grow this company into double in 5 years, we actually doubled the first year.
Okay, that's good to know because the 5-year plan, we're still stuck
Yeah,
in
it
that,
was
but
like-
he's already
Yeah.
going
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
racehorse over
Yes.
here, right?
So we doubled in first year, and then we did another acquisition, and then again it was all about serving your clients. It was never about money. It was all about how can you do a good job of whatever projects
Right.
you're working on, and
Right.
it's just word of mouth. That's how we kind of grew our business. But where we started till that June, we were already 6 or 7 times where we started. So our company started with two people in 2018, and at that time we were 8.
Huh.
So what Kerry saw is a lot of the pain points we had already been through that, and then at that point of time we were kind of a bit of stable company.
So he
Right.
says to me, I remember there was one time I had said to him, I said, I can't believe it. It kind of seems risky that I just left my career, my corporate job. It was really, really great just to do this. And his response to me was, Kerry, if I had me back in 2018 when I started, I wouldn't be stressed at all. Like, essentially, he has so much experience, and he's gotten to such a stable point that I have nothing to be worried about.
That's awesome. I love it. That's a great story.
Yeah.
So then, in June of 2023, when we started this discussion, we already had a target lined up, and that would make our company double actually, from an employee perspective.
And on top of that, just really quickly,
Yeah.
the company that I was with, they had made me stay my full 60 days. So 60 days, I was like, are you really going to make me stay for 2 additional months? Like, I'm ready to
Wow.
go. So
Yeah.
I would have to I had vacation remaining, so I'd take vacation days. We ended up meeting with this prospect that we wanted to purchase.
Okay.
On one of my days, I had to take a vacation day. So we're out meeting with them saying, we want to buy your business. And the next day, I'm going downtown to work at my
Wow.
actual
So you
job.
okay?
So it was
Interesting.
kind of working two
trying
jobs.
to think. I'm trying to think of the timelines and how that's all working out. Now, you didn't have any issues with your past employer with moving and like non-competes or anything like that,
No.
or
Because she was not in public accounting.
gotcha.
So,
Okay.
So there was
Just making
no,
sure.
there was no non-compete issue or anything like that. And
Good.
From our perspective, we didn't have any issues because we were buying another practice. So
Hit it out of the park as far as first year, and going to the 5-year point at the first year, right? How many companies? So you started with 65 people that you targeted, and then you bought
one,
one,
just one.
and then now we have how many?
So this is our
Third. Okay.
So he did two before I
Two
joined.
before you came, and
I
but the
joined
one
and
is
that-
big, and that doubled.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
So yeah, again, from a revenue perspective, where we were at June, now our revenue is 3 times of that.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah. So
I love it. So you do have an entrepreneurial spirit, don't you? you like the game of the hunt. It sounds like.
I don't know. It was never, again, we like after the last acquisition that our company did, our practice did, we just said, we are never going to acquire. But this kind of lined up perfectly with what we were looking for, because what we got from this acquisition was 8 experienced people. Experienced as in like
Experience, right.
Like one of the person has done taxes for last 50 years. So
We've
that
all
kind of
come from the big four. I mean,
to have that kind
wow,
of talent
okay.
in house, it's like you
Game
can
changer.
advise
Yep.
to a lot of clients. You can run ideas what kind of tax strategies we can advise. It's just about even the project that the first project that Kerry won. Part of the reason was this acquisition because they were asking for referrals, and one of the referrals was in the same industry, so we could provide that, and it just makes it easier.
reminds me though, so this last RFP, it's a request for proposal that we had done. We had one guy, and this is actually a really great story, and he'll let you know how the relationship initially started, but this guy is extremely successful, makes multi-millions of dollars a year. Nicest, most humblest, down-to-earth guy. So we had given his name as a referral, and we had a call with him, just a tax planning call, and he says, "Oh, someone called me for a referral the other day on you guys, and I gave you guys a glowing review, of course." He says, I explained it pretty quickly, is that there are 3 men in this world that I would ever say I love you to, and one of them is Sachin. He's like, "Okay, it's my dad, my grandpa. I don't have a son, but I mean, really." He says I don't do
good.
anything without Sachin giving me the go ahead.
Wow.
And to hear that from somebody who's so successful, I was like,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
But that relationship is just I met him after I acquired the first practice in 2018. So that's how. It's not that I have known this individual for years
Right.
and years. I have known
Right.
Bill actually for more than that.
Do you love me? I love you. I mean, come on.
Bill was my cycling coach actually.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
I thought that was crazy too. That was another crazy thing he was doing, was the
Ironman
half
racing.
Ironman.
Yeah.
That was wild.
But yeah, it's like you develop this deep relationships and it works out.
So tell him the story about how you met this client.
So yeah, there's this other client that he told me that he thinks that his salary is going to go crazy, that he's going to go from $300,000 to $1 to $2 million, and from there probably $10 to $15 million.
Well, hold on. When somebody tells you that, do you believe them?
It depends. It depends on the person.
Okay. And did you believe this guy?
This,
Good
yes,
question.
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Good. Interesting.
Yeah. So, we said, okay, what can we do? There's nothing that you can do on the federal side. Federal income tax, there's nothing, especially if you're a W-2 employee. So then what else can you do? And he said, how much attached you are to state of Illinois. It's like, kind of doesn't matter to me. I can be anywhere. And so he decided that he wants to move to Tennessee.
Tennessee.
So he says, well, if it's not Illinois, where else would I live? Sachin says, well, Tennessee would be a good option. He says, okay. Within months, he's up and moved
Really?
out to Tennessee.
And
Interesting.
his W-2s were like that, like 1.2, 10 to $12 million, and now it's like pretty much.
These clients do this. I mean, I've seen it. So a client will call on a Friday saying, hey, I just have excess cash. I just came into $600,000. What do you suggest I do? So not even necessarily from a tax perspective, but more even like it's just discussions. And
people want to run ideas by you, and they want a non-biased opinion. Because if nothing against anybody's profession, but if you're asking this question to a real estate agent, then they are going to say, buy properties. I can find some properties for you. Or if there's a financial advisor, then they are going to say, okay, maybe we should invest in this. But in all these instances, there's something that they are getting. Versus like when it's with us, there's
we're
nothing.
not gaining anything.
We are
out
not
of it.
gaining anything. It's just that we
Right.
are giving the advice, and we are just
Along for the ride.
Yeah.
Helping their business grow.
Yeah, so that's where it comes. Our business name, Business Growth Advisors. So BG
Yeah.
Advisors, CPA. So
BGA advisors, CPAs.
Yeah. So this guy had called him and said, I came into this money. And he says, okay, well, let's think about it. So right now, I don't know what year it was, but you said you've got a couple properties. You have them in Florida. They've been doing pretty well. You've got your connections there. Why not, instead of paying off a loan that you currently have outstanding that has 1%, leave that there. I mean, you're not paying too much on that. Go and buy some more properties. Monday, the guy calls. It says, well, I bought three more properties.
Oh, two. Oh, I was off. Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But that makes you more responsible of what you say. You have to think
Right.
twice, think 3 times probably before you say anything from your mouth, because people are going to take your advice and then take
Hopefully
it
it
from
doesn't
there.
fail.
Yeah.
Well, that was the question I had when you took on this next company is how concerned are you with risk when it comes to growing like that?
So that is in continuation with the previous discussion that we had, is you learn a lot from your clients too. And again, being a CPA, being an accountant, you are not that, you are risk averse, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then you meet all these individuals and then you see all these stories. I think that brings you that energy in you that, no, maybe I should do this. And then, you become a bit more risk tolerant. And especially like, when you have done it twice, then it definitely brings more confidence that, no, we can achieve this.
But see, for me, it was so different because to me, it was more of, I'm not a risk taker by any means. Again, I was a finance major.
Right.
I worked at a company for 13 years, 5 years. But it was something that when I was there, it was in my gut of, this feels right. This is where you're supposed to be. I knew that the money would come. I didn't know how much. I literally, when I put in my resignation letter, I didn't know how much I was going to make from a base salary perspective until 3 weeks later. And I remember talking about it, and I said, okay, well, that's a huge pay cut for me. Let me just run the numbers. What am I going to do? I mean, even if he said it was $10,000 a year, I still made the decision. I was still in. I was all in.
Leap of faith.
It was a leap of faith.
That is.
But then I went home. I talked to my husband and kind of looked at it and said, you know what? We've got a mortgage, low interest rate. We've got daycare, some other minor expenses, but there's no reason we can't make this happen. And honestly, we've cut back a little bit, but not,
Yeah.
if anything, I look at it like I used to waste so much money.
Yeah.
I don't mind,
Yeah.
and right now, I'm just so happy.
Wow, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Mistakes. What mistakes are people making right now in the tax world? Like, what advice would you give somebody right now in the tax world?
From a personal perspective, I think the one thing that I say is you as the taxpayer have lived that entire tax year. We as your tax advisors, we don't know until you tell us. So it's okay to over communicate.
You don't just guess.
That's one thing that's actually very difficult for me because I came from these large organizations where if I was doing anything, whether it was tax consulting or tax compliance, it was from something that was completely fully audited by a huge organization. So
Right.
it was, you're going off of correct documentation.
Yeah.
Going here, to me, that's a whole different ballgame.
Right.
Completely different.
It's very different, right? Because it does affect the individuals right there. Whatever advice you give on tax strategy, the money is right there. Before it was whatever savings that you had, people will not even notice because it's like, okay, it's 0.001 cent per shareholder. So who is going to care about that? Versus here, like, you remember, like if we
just
say
said
$15,000, that money went to you. So it does make a lot of difference.
Right. Right.
But yeah, like back to the point, I think you have to tell your tax advisor or CPA that, whatever happened the last year, I think most of the people receive the questionnaire. I would say that, fill it out with the best of the ability that you have. And then, that definitely helps us to prepare the tax return based on that.
Yeah, but the thing is with the organizer, and this is something I was speaking with you about too, Bill, is that you get it, and it could be a 100-page document. You're not necessarily going to have to answer every question by any means, but it's something to be on the lookout for. Like, did you possibly sell stock somewhere?
It's funny.
Yes,
I answered that this morning with my
Really?
wife. I said, no, I don't think so, but that's a good thought. You
But
never
people
know.
do things back in January of last year
Right.
that they don't remember. And we can go and file a return because they're not audited. You don't have, certification that
Right.
everything they're giving you is completely full and correct. And then a month later, they come back and say, oh, here's a 1099. I forgot I made $1 million back in January.
Yeah.
This is a true
It
story.
is a true
This
story.
is a true
Really.
story.
It is a true
I'm like, oh, you
story.
just didn't, you forgot.
I forgot
that
about
you-
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. We deal with that a little bit on the loan side, but that's a big miss.
On the other advice for individuals that I have is like max out on your 401k. That's an easy one. Max out on your 529 if you have kids. Nothing dramatic. It's just plain and simple that everybody can do.
Okay. Going back to, you guys ask a question, have a big questionnaire that they
Organizer. Yeah.
organize. It's called Organizer.
Organizer.
Okay, so that's something you send out to all your clients. Is that different than other accountants?
No, I think that's
Really?
that's pretty
Because
much
I've
industry
had a few
standard.
accountants and they didn't give me that, but that's okay.
why
You have been
you're
receiving
now with
you have been
us.
receiving that for the last
Yes.
5 years.
Right. Yeah. Real estate. What advice would you give people in my industry with regards to real estate? Real estate tax, I don't know, laws or anything that's come out that might be beneficial?
One thing may not be even tax specific, but I just have to say we have a lot of clients that do a lot of real estate. So it may be in a different context of real estate, but if there's somebody managing properties, one of the most interesting concepts that I've seen that's been highly successful for our clients is keep a different credit card for each property. Keep a different set
Really?
of books for each property. It keeps it clean,
Okay.
and it's an easy way to follow the money to the property.
I wish I'd have known that. I had 4 properties and now I have 2. So that's
But even
something I
with
should have done.
2, yeah, I mean, it's just something that I would recommend to keep things clean. But
Yeah, and then in addition to that, what we suggest is again, this is more on the legal side, but we suggest people form series LLC, and then they can have cells for each of the properties. So it's legally separate, but then from a tax compliance,
consolidate.
it's just one return that you have to file versus multiple
So
returns.
what was that again?
Series
Series
LLCs.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a different series
Series
of
L-
LLCs.
gotcha,
that
okay,
you
all right.
consolidate.
So yeah, and then again, I would, as Kerry said, just have separate bank accounts and separate credit card for each one of the property. That way, when you look at the financials at the end of the year, you can say, okay, yeah, this makes sense. Especially on the real estate side, the rent is your rent is going to be fixed for the entire year. You would know if we are missing something, and same as on the expenses side, most of the expenses are fixed, so you can see what's going on.
And obviously, I would say carry that over with if you had another business too, right? So not only just the real estate side, but if you had another business, have that separate,
Oh, yeah,
with
absolutely.
different credit cards. Is there one particular credit card that you recommend? I mean, not that I want people to get into credit card debt. That's not the point. But if you're going to separate it, is there one in particular that you would recommend for people as business owners or, real estate or?
We use the Chase.
Inc.
Chase Inc. Yeah.
Chase Inc. Okay.
INK.
But
I've heard American Express too because it
I've
goes
seen
along
that
well
too,
with
yeah.
QuickBooks. So I don't know. Just a thought.
I think American
QuickBooks
Express.
goes along with anything. So
Yeah.
QuickBooks Online, that just brings me to another key I would give to anyone who's doing various businesses. But QuickBooks Online, it's the tool. A lot of people are hesitant because they use QuickBooks desktop. It's like, it's 2024. Everyone should be on QuickBooks Online. It's
QuickBooks Online, or
Okay.
there are multiple softwares.
But it links with everything.
Yeah.
I mean, all you do is you sign into your Chase account, and all of a sudden, every single transaction's linked. So.
I've thought about doing my own business in an entirely different world, but I think that's the biggest question is how do you start? If it's QuickBooks, so you nailed it with regards to how to really form that foundation with putting that together.
There is one other thing, especially for business owners. We do see people will pay a lot of personal expenses through business card, and in my mind, then when you're looking at your business, then it doesn't give you the correct picture that how much your business truly made.
Right.
Because there's just so
Dilutes
much.
your earnings, yeah.
I think
Don't mesh.
there are better strategies to reduce your taxes rather than just putting all the personal expenses into your business. And the crazy thing is that we can see it. When people try to put personal expenses and then they think that nobody's going to notice. No, we live in the same world. We are doing this exact same thing that you guys
But it's
doing,
funny.
so
We have clients that are friends, and they'll say, "Hey, I was out with so and so the other day, and they just said, oh, don't worry about it. I'm putting it on my corporate card. It's a business expense." They said, "We don't get to do all this as business expenses. Why is so and so able to do it?" And we said, he can say and do whatever that he wants to say, but he's not the one who's actually approving the expenses that get put on the books in the tax return. So whether or not you say it's a business expense,
because
once it comes
we are
to
we are
taxes-
the ones who do the accounts for the other client that
Right.
and we can determine if it's truly personal, it's not treated as a deductible expense at the business level. It's a
How do-
distribution.
I would imagine there's probably a lot of awkward conversations that you have with your clients then, right? Because they're
and-
trying to cut.
yeah.
I'm not saying cut corners, but they're trying to save money on tax returns.
Minimize their taxes.
Right? So when you're in that position, how do you respond to that?
To not take expenses or
Yeah, if you call it hey, look, this is a personal expense, the person's questioning you on it. What's your response on that? Because it seems like that you'd probably have a lot of.
There could be some gray lines.
Yeah.
You're saying there may be some situations where we have somebody that does podcasting type stuff, right? I guess I don't know what you would call all of that, but all
and
these
drones?
expenses of yeah. But had to pay $600 for hair extensions and manicures and pedicures, and I'm like, and then travel expenses, and it's like it has to be reasonable and it has to be in line with your business. So
Good.
it is a fine line, and you have to look at it. But if you see somebody who's in the business of manufacturing some type of goods and they're running through $35,000 in hair plugs, not to say I've never seen that. I've seen that. That's not a valid business expense. So
But yeah, we have seen that it's going to happen, and then we just code that as distribution.
it's
Yeah.
not a good expense.
Because we don't want our clients to get into trouble, also, right?
Right.
In a way, we are trying to protect them that if they get audited.
That's the last thing anybody wants.
Yeah, exactly. So, but you have to have that discussion. And then,
Yeah, we have to toe that line every now and then with somebody's asking us questions. Whether somebody's going to rent out a property or not rent out a property. That's to save money. And so you have to literally say, no, I don't want you going to jail.
Yes,
Like,
yes.
do you want to go to
Exactly,
jail?
exactly.
Because it's
That's
not
what it
worth
is.
it
Yep.
at the end of the day.
that's what you say, that there's a fine line, right? It is a gray line. Sometimes you have to look at it, though. But you know if you're completely over that line,
Right.
it's just a no-go. Like,
Right.
you just shouldn't do it.
But you know, one of the things though in this entire process, how we got all the clients, it was purely like, you know, as I said, it was referrals, it was word of mouth. We didn't go out and then just got clients just for the sake of it. I think we have a pretty good clients actually from that perspective.
Right.
That, you know, they would take our advice, they would listen to us, and we would listen. Like as I said, we learned so much from them, so it's mutual. And I think when you're surrounded by the right, like all the right individuals, it definitely helps.
Birds of a feather flock together, right?
Yes.
How did we end up here with you?
I don't know. I have no idea. But it's Iron Man. That's what Iron Man does, right? Yeah, that's amazing. Like I think that's a great, and I would echo that as far as learning from your clients. I've always learned from my clients after 26 years being in the business. You can learn what's happening in the market, what the client's saying, what the market's doing based on what the consumer's saying. That's a great point to make. We're going to get into questions of the day. This is where it gets a little funny, but we're just going to ask you brainstorming questions, quick 3 questions, and it's fun, just to lighten the mood. If you could have dinner with anybody, whether they be alive or not alive, in the world today, who would it be with?
That's a tough one.
All right, you're
You get a
fired.
book
You're no
of
longer my
questions?
accountant. He can't answer simple
Book of
questions.
I had to have dinner with somebody. Probably it would be with this cricketer. His name is Sachin, same as my name. His
Really?
last name is Tendulkar. He is known as God of Cricket.
God of cricket.
Yeah.
Are you into cricket?
Yeah, I used to play cricket like growing up. Anybody who grew up in India knows how to play cricket.
I've never played cricket.
You've never
I didn't
played
grow
cricket?
up in India either, so.
How about you? Kerry, what do you say?
I don't
Who would it be?
know. It's, you know what, this to me, when I think about it, and when you first initially said that, I was like, I would love, my mom has passed away. It's been about 10 years, and I just think about family, and it would be really, really wonderful to be back with family. But it's another thing that Sachin and I share is he started this out, is that he saw his dad and his work ethic, and my mom and dad always worked extremely hard, so we came from very hardworking families and tight connections and close connections. So yeah, I would definitely say my mom.
Oh, that's great. I had another agent on here that said her dad, and that was.
So she's a good person.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Question 2. Now I'm going to turn a little bit of. So, what was one thing that your dad and your mom both said that rings in your ear today?
My dad is pretty big on values, so to him, like, not to cheat anyone, like say the truth, and that has just stayed with me. That, you know, even if I have to lose a lot of money, I would do that, but I would keep up my word, and I would stand by what I said.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Lou Holtz, his biggest thing is 3 things. 1, can I trust you? Are you good at what you do? And do you care about me? And I can see that in both of you, so that's good.
I like that.
What about your mom?
I think I already said this initially. It was trust your gut.
Trust your gut.
Trust your gut.
Really? She'd say that to you?
Yeah, but she said I had a lot of really good sayings, but I'm telling you, that's the one that sticks home with me when I think about the decision, when I made such a risky decision that I look back now that could be risky. But
Wow, yeah, that's good. Brings it all back around, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
So you trust your gut with Sachin.
yeah.
And it's working out.
So far.
So far, so good. All right. If you could be anywhere in the world today, where would it be?
It's always one place. It's Masai Mara in Kenya. I can go there
Kenya.
Really?
any day. If
Really?
anybody tells me, I can go there.
Even with lions that are 3 feet outside your
I don't
I've
like
done
that, yeah.
like
Something that
7.
can eat me, I don't like.
Yeah, I've done 7 safaris, and I can go any day.
I've done 0 safaris. Actually, once I was in Florida at Disney World. I did the safari.
Disney World? Oh, yeah. My daughter and I love that show, by the way, Animal Kingdom.
Oh, yeah, that's what it was. I was trying to think of what the name
We
of
watch
it.
it all the
Okay.
time.
Yeah.
So, okay, so I got a question there. Were you close to animals when you were like? I mean, I know you were probably close to animals, but how close did you get to lions?
When on a safari?
Yeah,
Probably where Kerry is sitting.
a lion was sitting that close to you. A wild lion was sitting that close
But
to you.
I was in the safari car, so safari. I was in a.
I've seen
Land
those cars.
Rover.
They're open. I mean,
Yeah.
they got claws. They can pull you
Yes.
out.
The first time I remember, I went for safari, and our guide, he says there's a lion here, and I was like, I don't see, where is the lion? He's like, just peek down, and I peeked down like this, and there was a lion sitting. And the thing about lion is that
me.
Yeah, I
they
don't know.
they don't move. Like they are when we say that they are king of jungles, they are truly king of jungles, because if a lion is walking, doesn't matter if a truck is coming or anything is coming,
not
they'll
moving.
just keep on walking straight. You have to leave. So
That's wild. That's wild.
Yeah.
So you've been on 4 of them, you said? Right?
7.
7?
My sister lives in Kenya, so
Oh, really?
I
Okay.
have the luxury to go whenever I want.
There you go. That's good. Where would you want to be?
A beach anywhere.
Beach anywhere.
Just
Doesn't
keep
matter.
it easy. I don't even have to go. Yeah, I don't even have to go that far.
Okay.
Just to be Hawaii.
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 I went to Hawaii. I love. My wife and I went there to Maui. Loved it.
Maui's great.
Yeah. Well,
I'm ready for some nicer weather though. That's all I gotta say.
yeah, I know.
about
It's gonna be
time.
good. It is. It is. But well, I appreciate both of you coming on the show. We're gonna have to have you back again because it's been fun, and I'm sure you got more information you want to give people, especially business owners, because you had some really good nuggets of information. And yeah, well, if you are interested in accounting as a business owner, these are the people to talk to. Clearly, they are successful and people are listening. So we'll see you on the next show of Loans and Drones, and thank you again.
Rooms and drones. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
It's too late in the day for this. Oh.